All right, we're good.
Okay.
We're good. We're good.
Okay, the thing didn't pop. Oh, hello. Welcome. I'm going to say welcome back because we thought we were live a few minutes ago and evidently, I don't know, something happened. Anyway, we are glad that you're watching Trail Talk today. I'm Edie and I'm here at the Chuckwagon studio at the Chisholm Trail Heritage Center in Duncan, Oklahoma. And I have a very dear friend and special guest with me, Savannah Bowers. Hello, Savannah. So Savannah and I have known each other for quite a while. Her husband used to coach the swim team here at Duncan High School, and one of my kiddos was on the team. And anyway, we became friends then. And Savannah has, I can't remember if it was during that time that you were getting your teaching degree, or I cannot remember how that worked. How long have you been at the high school?
So this is my 6th year at the high school, and then I was at Emerson a year before that too.
Okay. Yeah. So you are the high school librarian. Is that the role you've had at the high school
Yes.
this whole time?
Yes.
Okay. And then you're also the teacher of the leadership class. Okay. So guys, the leadership class is more than the classroom. It's really everything that you guys do are outside the walls of the classroom. I don't remember that. Was AJ? Did AJ take?
AJ didn't get to do it.
Didn't do it. Yeah, it
No,
didn't work out with
it
his
was-
schedule. But Abby was in the leadership class, but it was before you came there. So how long has leadership been a class?
So leadership was actually a class at the high school back in like the early 2000s.
Oh, okay.
They didn't have it when I was there. I graduated in 2008. And I wish I knew the answer precisely, but I know that at least 2 or 3 years before I came, someone started the class up again.
So Abby graduated in 15 and she was in there in 14.
Okay.
And so I don't know if that was the first year.
It was probably really
Or-
close because I don't think they had it when my sister and brother were there. So probably 13 or 14 was the first year.
Okay.
So I took it over 6 years ago, and we have grown it into everything that it is today. And I'm just so proud to have been a part of everything that we've done.
So I want you guys, the viewers, I want you to listen to today's, what Savannah's going to share with us today, because I think it's going to be encouraging and uplifting, and it might even make you feel proud of teenagers, which is something that teenagers I don't think they get a lot of that kind of feedback from adults. It's like sometimes we have expectations of students acting like adults, but really they do things maybe even with more passion than adults do, but they do it like kids because they're teenagers, and that's the beauty of it. Is just all of that energy and drive and the ideas, and they're not quite as fearful as we are as adults, and so it's just awesome. I love it when teenagers take over and own something, and I feel like that is what has happened with the leadership class. So first of all, who can take or enroll in the leadership class?
So normally, we've only made 2 exceptions. Normally, it's just juniors and seniors, and we like to keep our numbers between 25 and 30.
Okay.
Just, it's kind of the too many chiefs, not enough Indians thing when you get that many leaders in a room together.
True.
That's a whole nother lesson.
Right.
But this year and then 3 years ago, we also opened it up to sophomores. So for the second time, I'm having a group that I'll have had for 3 years. It's just this group of seniors I've had since they were sophomores. And now I have a group of sophomores that I'll hopefully have until they're seniors. So that one extra year is makes things so much more special. And I think one giant thing about leadership that I know if my kids did it, if I didn't mention my kids would be upset, is how we are much more than a class, and we get to a point where we're more of a family dynamic. And that's always very, very important, especially to like the seniors, instilling that in the juniors or the new sophomores. And, you know, hey guys, I'm going to have your back and you're going to have mine. And we're all in this together. Every Friday we circle up and we give a high and a low from the week, just to kind of keep in touch with each other. We do a lot of things outside of class together. Not just service activities, but just, you know, hanging out and getting to know each other better. And that's something that when I initially started this, I had no idea that it would become something where these kids would find like an older sister in me, not just a teacher or just a mentor, but an older sister. And that's a huge responsibility of, you know, 16, 17, 18-year-olds who are, especially with my seniors who are about to go out into the world, they come and ask me so many questions sometimes, and that's a huge responsibility to put them on, you know, try to give them enough where they can make their own decisions to go on that path and then leave me. But that's the hard
that's
part.
as good practice for when little Wrigley's a teenager there, Mom. Trust me. Okay, so let's talk about kind of when you first came 6 years ago, what did the leadership class look like? Like, what were the goals? What was the structure of the class?
So when I took over, I had a class of 21 that had already been chosen through an application process. So, and I didn't know any of the kids that were in the class. So it was starting from scratch.
And they were juniors and seniors?
And they were juniors and seniors. Okay. We had 4 boys and the rest were girls. So that was an odd kind of dynamic to try to balance out. It was, at the time, they did our Book Buddies program and they did a veterans breakfast, and then everything else was in classwork. And I knew right away that that was not how this class should be utilized. These kids need to be out. They need to be serving in the community. That's what their passion is. And that's, you know, Duncan definitely, that was kind of around the time too, you know, we were in this downhill slide of, you know, all teenagers being branded as kind of hoodlums or not, just didn't care.
Not contributors.
Exactly. I mean,
Takers.
just everything was negative.
Yeah.
So here I had this group of kids who wanted to give back to their community and had all of these ideas and this heart for it. And together, that first group and I kind of built a few new things into the program. And obviously now 6 years later, they're gone multiple days a week. We're involved with multiple organizations in the community. I think that our social media presence and really shows how diverse we are in the community, and all of the different things that we're able to go do is just incredible, that people would trust their passions and their, you know, a lot of things that we create like that become our babies, and that people would trust a group of teenagers and their crazy teacher to come in and help with these things. But we've met so many fantastic people, and I've had so many students who have figured out things that they're passionate about, and they've gone off to college and continued on volunteering in those areas, or they've realized through like Book Buddies that they really love kids and they've gone into education because of that. So I could talk all day about how it's grown. It's so
okay. So
different.
let's start at the beginning then. So Book Buddies, tell the viewers, what is Book Buddies?
Okay, so Book Buddies is our program with Duncan Public Schools, and we partner with usually early childhood teachers, and the students will go in and do, in the beginning, I think it was a lot of just reading with students, but I've turned it into more of a mentor program, because we also see a lot of that, you know, especially with COVID, our kids are a couple of years behind So if my big kids can come in and be that older brother or sister to a student in an elementary school, that means more to me than them sitting down and reading a paper book.
Right.
It's about, hey, every Tuesday, my friend Clay is going to be here. Like and they, and then, when they come in and they're wearing their football uniforms or their cheer uniforms or, they're rock stars. The teenagers are rock stars when they go into those buildings. So that is what Book Buddies is.
And so do they participate at all of the elementary schools, or they're just one or two? I remember Abby, I think they worked at Emerson and Horace Mann in those days.
We are at 4 of the schools currently. Scheduling has become an issue because I think when Abby was in it, and even my first year, and this is the reason AJ couldn't take the class, is it was in the afternoon, and I moved it to right before lunch instead. So that was a big change, but it was so that more people could be involved and that we could go out and do more. We just had more opportunities between like 10:30 and noon. So that does interfere a little bit with some of the elementary school schedules. We would love to be at all of them. I always offer to be at all of them, but we're very blessed to be where we are at.
Right. And so so they go and make friends at the elementary schools. And then you mentioned the Veterans Breakfast. Is that still ongoing?
We actually haven't had the Veterans Breakfast in a couple of years because of COVID.
Yeah.
This year, the senior class at the high school kind of took over the Veterans Assembly, and I'm a senior sponsor, so I was still able to be a part of that.
Like a Veterans Day?
We did.
As far as timing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That's something that I would really love to bring back, because that's really the first big project that the kids do where I break them into groups and they're solely responsible for, like this group is in charge of decorating, this group is in charge of getting the invitations out, this group's in charge of the food, and we always have the wonderful people at the hospital usually donate the breakfast to us, and then we have it at First Christian Church in their gathering hall. So it's something that I've really missed. We have been able to do our Adopt a Grandparent program this year, though, and that's been really nice.
So tell us about that
COVID
program.
Yeah, so Adopt a Grandparent was something that I dreamt up one night, probably laying in bed, and this year, we were able to partner solely with Chisholm Trail not Chisholm Trail, Country Club Care.
Okay,
Sorry, Carson. Yeah. Country Club Care. And the students go, and there's like 2 paired with a resident, and just go and spend time with them on Thursdays. They'll play games or do puzzles or just sit and talk. And it's been, I think, well, one of our biggest things is getting outside of your comfort zone. You can't be a leader if you can't get outside of your comfort zone. And I think that Adopt a Grandparent pushes a lot of these kids outside of what they're comfortable with. I mean, it would me.
Right.
Because, sometimes going into those situations, it's hard. You don't know what to expect from the other person, and that makes it difficult. But we're just, we're there every Thursday. We have stopped since coming back from school because of COVID again, unfortunately. But we're looking forward to going back and being with our residents again.
Right. So that sounds like 3 pretty fairly big responsibilities. So what are some other things? I know that that's not all that you guys are doing.
We usually do a fundraiser and partner with Caris Center.
So a fundraiser for Caris?
Yes. Yes, we'll do like the bottle drive for them.
The little baby bottles. Okay.
Yes. So we partner with Caris. Usually each month is dedicated to a different community organization. And if we can, we'll go volunteer, but we try to do some sort of fundraiser amongst ourselves to give some monetary thing back at the same time. We work with Bark in the Park. We work with the toy shop. The spring is a little bit slower just because sports schedules, and everything is just crazy and fast. And
Right.
We work kind of the spring is when we do a freshman mentoring program at the high school. So the leadership students are paired with freshmen who are either potential leadership candidates or just students who kind of need somebody, maybe a tutor, or just need someone to kind of just a friend, just someone that's there, a constant. So we're about to get started with that. So we're very excited to start that this year. We also started the first ever podcast for Duncan Public Schools this year. We launched in September. We have almost 1,000 followers.
Wow.
So that has been an exciting journey.
And let me tell y'all, I'm about to be one of their followers because I went to my podcast app and love the number 2 lead, and it's all squished together like it's one word.
Yes.
And there it is. It pops right up, Duncan High School, and you can just follow them that easy. It's that fast and easy.
Yes.
So do they pick the topics? I love podcasts. I really do. So I'm very interested in this.
Yes. So we met even before school started, and some of the seniors and I sat down and just started talking about how can we make this work? Because this was a big undertaking. I mean, you have to have the microphones, you have to have the right computer programs, you have to have someone who knows what they're doing.
Right.
And then, all the topics. So when we came back to school, we divided into groups, and I just had them write like any topic that they thought a teenager would be interested in hearing the perspective of another teenager, just to know they're not alone in anything that they're going through. What college do I go to? Relationships, time management. I mean, all the things that you're trying to learn to do through those teenage years before you do go off to college or to work or whatever you're going to go and do. And we ended up taking those and narrowing them down to, I think we chose 10, and then we are trying to do 2 a month. So we're a little bit behind, unfortunately, but it's just incredible. We go in a room and sit around a table, and it's 98% them just, pouring their hearts out, giving their opinions, being very honest, which I appreciate, because I what's the point in doing it if you're not going to be that way?
Exactly.
And I mean, sometimes I'll kind of help facilitate the conversation along, or if I see like someone's on to something, I'll try to like dig get the question and get it out of them. But it's definitely been a huge learning process for me too, because I didn't know anything about podcasts. So when we had this idea, I was like, oh my gosh. So I started listening to them over the summer. I was like, what can I learn about podcasts? But that probably in the 6 years, that's one of the things that I'm most excited about, because it was 100% our idea, and we've gotten it off the ground successfully. And I think it's something that will be easy to sustain for years to come, I hope.
Right.
But
I can't imagine, because even if you go over the same topics, you're going to have fresh people,
exactly,
different people discussing it with totally different views and ideas and things. So, it'd be very easy to go back over some of the same things. That is awesome. But every good podcast has like 10 or 12 in a season or whatever. Yeah. So you get that many, and then you can stop and regroup.
Yes.
And so but just seems sustainable to me.
I'm so proud of them though. I mean, everything from the planning to sitting down and recording, and it's just been incredible. I've seen a lot of the ones that are it doesn't matter if they're the newer sophomores or the seniors that have been with me for 3 years, they're all 100% invested in it. And it's just, as a teacher, that's something really special to see, some crazy idea you had in the middle of the night come to fruition.
Right.
Like that.
Right.
So
that's a very cool thing. Yeah. I love that. So, couple of questions. How do students get to be in the leadership class? What do they need
So
to do?
in the spring, we announce that applications are available, and we take applications for about 2 weeks usually. Those applications are all sent to different community members, 2 different community members, and given a ranking of a 1, a 2, or a 3. 1 being, yes, this person is absolutely like, would be great in your class, and 3, not so much. 2 is a maybe. And from there, I pull all the 1s and stack them. I go through the 2s and kind of make the final decision on should it be a 1 or a 3. And then I'll go back through the 3s and just to see, you know, what might have been missing, because sometimes students will come and they'll be, you know, curious why they didn't make it. And we have limited space. So it's always hard telling someone no. But I always, if they come and talk to me where I have the opportunity to, I tell them that they do not have to be in leadership to be a leader.
Right.
And, you know, just doing 1 or 2 more things that might have made that application pop does not, you know, that doesn't determine that they're a good leader or not. So that's always hard, having to tell someone that they can't be in the class. My 3rd year, I think, I tried saying yes to a lot of people, because the year before I had to say no to so many, and we had 32 in the class, and it just didn't work. A lot of people ask why we don't have more than 1 class. That's a question that comes up a lot. And I think that to understand that, you really would have to understand the family dynamic that we create. And it just wouldn't be fair to those 2 groups of teenagers. It would almost be like having 2 separate families, and they never really get to mingle. Or if we did ever get to come together and do something, I don't think it would work as cohesively, just because we aren't ever like, well, we're never with them and they're never with us. And so that's why we only have 1 class, because there's something really special in that bond that's created and that trust that's created. So I'm pretty, I don't budge on that one.
Right. Well, and I mean, to be fair and transparent, there are more than, like you said, you can be a leader without being in the leadership class. There are tons of organizations at the high school that students can be. I'm thinking of like Bailey, who's behind the camera today. Bailey was a huge leader in high school, but she was through FFA.
Yes.
And so, I mean, there are more ways for kids to get that leadership experience. So your leadership class fits a need of a certain group. And then there are other groups. There are all sorts of groups of kids at the high school. So this is just one aspect of leadership, but this is the one we're talking about today. So that's why we're giving you guys the nod. Okay, so there's this application process. Are there like, I hate the word rules, but are there some things that they have to do to be able to stay in the class?
Yes, we do have, we have guidelines in our syllabus. There, we'd like everyone to maintain a 3.5 GPA throughout the class. Chronic absenteeism. Now we both can't say it.
That happens
anyway,
to me a lot,
we try to not do. We try to kind of frown upon that. So if someone's gone too often for, you know, things other than illness, that becomes an issue. Honestly, at this point, so after we narrow down the 1s and the 2s, everyone comes in for an in-person interview with me. And that's when I really get to see, like, did your parent fill out this application, or did you do you really have this passion in you? And I'm not saying,
because honestly, it's a great thing on your resume for college to have something like that. And so it is understandable that sometimes parents desire that more than the kids do.
Yes, absolutely.
But, you know, that's a real thing.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, you know, from the outside, especially, I think our class, sometimes you can look in and be like, oh, all they do is, you know, they just have fun and they're gone all the time. Like, yeah, I want to be in that. So you don't see a lot of that behind the scenes work and all the blood, sweat, and tears that go into it some of the time. But so after the interview process, which I think the last 2 years, I've brought in seniors with me, just to kind of get a second opinion, because I was realizing that I was having feelings about some people's temperaments and things like that, wondering if they were really being genuine. And it helps to have someone that I trust next to me can be like, oh, no, I think that red flag was a red flag, Mrs. Bowers. I don't think you're making that up. So that's been something new that we do. And then we just kind of see, you know, how many we have and what's feasible. Like I said, last year when we opened up applications, we only had about 5 would-be juniors and seniors apply, which would have made our class about 12. So not that we couldn't have done it, but that just would have been a shame. So we opened it up to sophomores. Before, my sophomore class was an entirely separate class, kind of like me talking about the 2 families. That's when I really learned that is 100% true, because I had my juniors and seniors in the morning, and then I had my sophomores in the afternoon, and they never really got to overlap. And when they did, it was kind of awkward because we don't know you, you don't know us. Yeah. It's just hard to work together sometimes in that environment.
Right. So if they don't have to reapply.
So once you're in, you do not have to reapply.
Okay.
There are guidelines in our syllabus and our handbook about, you know, just your behavior. You know, don't take advantage of this privilege that you've been given. If you're expected to be somewhere, be there. There are consequences, obviously, for, because, I mean, we all sometimes do, you know, we don't want to do things all the time. Right. So it's very tempting to, well, I think I'm just going to take a long lunch and not go do book buddies today. That can be very tempting. So there are consequences if you choose to do that. But that's where, you know, keeping each other accountable and being like, hey, Krista, you know, we really need to go to book buddies, and then we'll go to lunch. Because I mean, and this group is really good about keeping each other accountable. They're all really close. They were close outside of class before, so now we're just kind of, you know, fine tuning how to treat each other and how to talk to each other, and just those little things like that. But
so what is the goal of leadership class, like for you as the adult, giving your time and these opportunities to these students? What is your goal for the kids?
Well, I think I always set out that I want them to discover something new about themselves by the end of the year, discover a passion, like maybe fine tune that passion a little bit. Like my area is with kids, or my area is with working in the community with different organizations, or like I really loved the Caris Center, or I really loved, you know, Humane Society and their mission. So really kind of finding that niche area where that's my jam. Like I want them to have that moment. Now over the last 6 years, it's been so incredibly rewarding to keep in touch with the students. And I mean, I really do. There's probably only maybe 8 or 10 that I don't have contact with anymore. And I mean, for them to have memories still of leadership, or something that I said so many years ago still resonate with them, is just, as a teacher, that's incredible. Right. And for them to take things that we discovered together in class and use them in their adult lives now is just, you know, that's letting me know that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Wow. Okay. And then, so, are you 100% funded by the school, or does the leadership, do they have to, like, do you have to have a lot of organizations have a booster club or some kind of fundraising. Do you guys fundraise for yourselves?
We do. We fundraise 100% for ourselves. We're treated just like any other club on campus. Even though we're a class, we don't really have a category. Yeah. We're a club, we're a class. We don't really know what we are, but we fundraise 100% on our own. So this year, usually we have a fundraiser in the fall and in the spring, but just because of all of everyone needing to have a fundraiser and how the community's been affected with COVID, we chose to kind of cut back on our spending. and save our money a little bit more. And we'll try to have one fundraiser in the spring instead of two.
Okay, so do you have like officers or some kind of hierarchy, or like, I'm sensing that there's some budgeting discussions and things like that.
So anytime I'm going to spend money, unless it's, just going and buying posters or things like that, I usually, if it's a big purchase, I always discuss it with the whole class. I feel like even though I'm the adult and I'm responsible for that money, it's their money.
Mm-hmm.
So if I wanted to go and buy a new laptop or something, I wouldn't do that unless I ran it past them. Just like with the podcast, we needed microphones, we needed a few things like that. We have to pay monthly for our domain name.
Right.
And so that was something that I was just, I said, guys, we need microphones. I found these, they're this much. This would be this much out of our budget. They know it. They know how much money we have.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very transparent with them about that, because, if I'm going to turn around and then ask them to kind of replenish the budget, I want them to know that students are going to be making decisions about where that money goes later.
Right.
Or if we want to make a donation to some things like that, then I want that to be on them, which I think is something really special that we have. I don't think a lot of clubs or organizations really do that with their students. Kind of give them free range of the budget. I haven't had anyone ask for like an Xbox or anything yet, so it hasn't backfired on me.
Yeah.
But,
hey, you never know.
Yeah, it might be coming now.
Yeah.
But no, so we do all of our fundraising on our own, and we just try to spend wisely, make it stretch.
Right. So, we're talking probably all in all, maybe 150, 200 students since it began. I'm thinking about back when Abby, my
The
daughter
second
Abby
wave
was
of
in
it.
there. Yeah. The second wave. And how many of these young people have gone out and, as you said, found their jam, found their place where they fit in as a leader, because leadership looks a little bit different for everyone in their situation, and there might be times when you are even in a span of a day, you're a leader here, and then you're a follower here.
Exactly.
And, kind of how to go back and forth in those roles. And it sounds like, because as you said, it's a class full of leaders. And so for them to be able to take turns as being the go-to in certain situations, what a valuable experience for someone who just has that tendency to lead and always, be the one who takes charge.
Yes.
And so I think that's awesome that they're, you break them into those groups and they have those different roles.
And we try to do that. In the spring, we try to do a lot of group work, and kind of, especially initially, I'll kind of watch to see who kind of steps up. And those are the ones who are like, okay, like you're like me, you're you're gonna, every time you're gonna step up. And I don't want those people to get worn down, because everyone that put in an application for that class, I saw that potential in them, and I want everyone to get their opportunity. And I do have people that come in and are kind of quiet and reserved, but it's still in there. That passion is in there. So it's all about making them feel comfortable and learn that you don't always have to be the loudest person in the room to be the leader.
Right.
That's not always the person leading. So, we talk a lot about, the quiet people and following them. And that is a huge lesson. I think I probably have the biggest group of quiet young ladies that I've ever had before. So this year's been kind of interesting to kind of push some of them. But I'm very transparent that before they get in the class and, sign on the line, I'm going to push you. I'm going to push you outside your comfort zone, because I know you have it in you.
And sometimes a kid just needs an opportunity.
Yes.
They don't even realize that it's in them. But given the right circumstances, they become aware of that thing, and that's all they needed.
Exactly.
I'm a podcast person, as I said before, and there's a podcast that I listen to it's called Revisionist History, but one of the episodes was about this kind of an experiment where they, instead of having a vote at a high school or a middle school for the student body president, or like the student council or all that, they just, anyone who wanted to put their name in could put their name in, and they would draw. Or if anyone wanted to participate, they had, like they did this in a South American country, they had like a bowl full of, I don't know, marbles or something, and there were 5 of them that were one color and all the others were another color. So you just went in and picked one, and if you got the one of the 5, then that is how they selected. And the experiment showed that given that opportunity, 9 times out of 10, those kids rose to the occasion, but they would have never put up posters and given speeches and done all those things that other kids would just, yeah, I'll go do that.
Right.
And they never would have approached it that way, but they're willing to go pick something out of a bowl, And anyway, it was just so thought provoking to me. But that's kind of what your class gives people an opportunity to do. Maybe they kind of think they'd like to, but they're not going to have to give a speech before the whole high school, or put up posters or do things like that, that's not their way of doing it.
It's much more intimate.
Mm-hmm.
Much more.
Yeah, I love that so much, Savannah. And it sounds like you guys are really leaving a mark on our community, touching the lives of everyone from the young kids in the elementary schools all the way to the senior adults, the veterans that we don't ever want to forget. And then the groups that serve our community, like the Humane Society and Caris and other organizations like that. So I just love it that you guys are just touching so many parts of the community. And thank you for taking that on and continuing something that you saw value in, and just making that available to those students. I love it. I love it so much. And I'm sure that our viewers do too. I think it's great. And that you said maybe 8 or 10, I was thinking, okay, she's had 6 classes of roughly 25, that's like 150 kids and maybe 8 or 10. So well done, Mrs. Bowers, on, impacting them to the point that they want to stay in touch. Yeah, we appreciate teachers like you so much. And, I'm giving a big shout out to teachers today after all that they've been through recently. And I think you're irreplaceable. And you guys work hard to do what you do and learn how to do what you do.
Yes,
anyway, so you guys, when you see someone from the leadership class or you see a fundraiser that they're doing, support them, give them a shout out, tell them you saw something about them here on Trail Talk. And we are excited for the future because of all these leaders growing up in our community.
Yes, it's bright, trust me.
Yeah,
they're out there. You just have to find them.
Yeah, that's right. So thanks for watching today. We'll be back next week. Next Wednesday, Cindy Parks is going to join us and talk about the let's see, what's it called? Duncan Area Arts Hall of Fame that's coming up next weekend. And then on Thursday, Matt Byerly from the Stevens County Fairgrounds is going to come and talk about all the things going on out there. So we're going to have some fun shows next week too. So Savannah, when it is time to say goodbye, we say happy trails.
Okay.
All right. So we'll see you guys next time.
Happy
Happy trails.